Evening, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're all well. I was just watching JMS again, to be honest, and just in enough every video I watch, there's just something mental fucked up in there that I just like to share to people. To be honest, like the vampire stuff or whatever, just some mental stuff. This is, are we in a simulation? And there is actually some evidence that we are in a simulation, the measurement theory. And how do I explain the measurement? Sorry, the measurement problem. Um, I mean, it'd probably be easier to find a video on it, to be honest, and explain it that way. It's kind of like it's. Wait, I think the Y Files has got a video on it. Hold on. Right, so we're on the Y Files now. We live in a simulation. The evidence is everywhere. All you have to do is look. Now, how this is, it's basically like the world. Fuck me, how do I explain this? This is kind of complicated without showing you a picture. I've tried to explain this to people before, and it's. Hold on, we'll see if Y Files does it.
The universe itself. Now, at first glance, this makes sense, but with all due respect to Dr. Kaku, that's not how simulations work. When you're playing a 3D video game, the entire game world isn't rendered. Instead, the game engine only calculates what the player can see and interact with at that specific moment.
Right, so what he's saying here, it's like Grand Theft Auto, the game. Basically, you've got this massive map on Grand Theft Auto, and if the computer had to load the entire level, it wouldn't really work. It would be really slow. It wouldn't function very well. So what the game does, it only loads what you can see. So this is what the game's loaded here. All the things. So when it turned round the camera there, it all that bit that's gone to the left's gone. Doesn't need it. It's not in sight. So it gets rid of it. It's not there. So in effect, it only creates to save memory what the person can see. So our reality, unfortunately, for us that we live in a simulation, acts in exactly the same way. And the saying, if a tree falls in the forest and no one's there, does it make a sound, comes from the whole premise. And that's a very old saying as well. So this premise that we live in a simulation isn't a new one, to be honest. Um, is kind of that saying is kind of based on this theory that if no one's there, um, the tree in effect won't even fall, let alone make a sound, because no one's there to observe the atoms and molecules which don't act the same unless observed, like a computer game, exactly like this. It's called the measurement problem. They've fired, I think it was atoms or neurons, or sure it was atoms. They fired atoms through like a holes in a wall, and they acted differently, a lot differently when people watched what the experiment or when they didn't watch the experiment. He'll maybe go on to explain this in a visual way in a moment, but this is kind of what the crack is like that for some reason the universe we live in, the world we live in, it doesn't kind of render unless we look at it. It's weird. It's a fucked up theory, but there's backing to it.
If we are living in a simulation, then it would make sense that the creators of the simulation would use a similar technique. And wouldn't it be interesting if there was evidence that this is exactly what happens?
Well, wait a minute. Do we have proof? Sweet fancy Moses!
Yeah, we do. We do have proof. This is exactly how the universe that we live in acts exactly like a computer game, like Grand Theft Auto. He's going to explain it now. The measurement problem, I think it's called.
A lot of people ask us, what's the difference?
Oh, he would before the advert. The thing about adverts on YouTube, it just fucks the flow of it, doesn't it? You know what I mean? You're just about to be hit with some real fucking juicy information, and before you know it, some cunt's trying to sell you some fucking milkshake or some shit. Go. I think that's air you're breathing now.
Supporters of simulation theory often point to video games as a way to explain, if not prove, that our reality is artificial. In a video game, the only data that is rendered is what the player sees or interacts with. If you're playing a video game and there's a car or building a mile away, that entire object isn't rendered. The game engine only renders the bare minimum of information to make the object look real. A distant building is rendered as just a few pixels, not that complicated. As you get closer, the engine renders more details, but still, it's just a facade. The engine doesn't bother calculating what's inside the building until you actually go in. The game engine always knows how much data to send you and doesn't bother with anything else. If we live in a simulation, it would make sense that our reality is rendered the same way. And we could test this.
Wait, what do you mean we can test this?
Specifically, we can use the double slit experiment. Here's how it goes. If we fire
Right, this is it, the double split experiment, right? This is exactly what I was trying to explain, but without sort of a visual, it's very hard to explain. But this is exactly how our universe acts, like a computer game.
Particles in a straight line at a screen, after passing through a single slit, we would expect to see this clumping pattern on the screen. If we try this with a wave, we expect to see a pattern like this, where particles are most dense in the middle of the screen but radiate outward, similar to the clumping pattern. When we add a second slit, it starts to get fun. When the waves pass through the double slit, each slit creates its own wave. When those waves intersect, they cancel each other out. That creates a pattern like this. It's called an interference pattern. So, particles passing through two slits create clumping patterns. Waves through two slits creates an interference pattern. Make sense?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Good. If we fire electrons through the slit, we see the clumping pattern as expected. An electron has mass, so it's a tiny bit of matter. So if we fire electrons through two slits, we should see two clumps. But we don't. We see the wave interference pattern. This shouldn't be happening. What's going on here? For years, scientists assumed that the electrons were colliding with each other.
Sorry, some sort of police incident. Whatever, sirens ruining the videos. Carry on.
Causing the wave pattern. But in the 60s, the experiment was modified so that only one electron at a time was fired through the slits. There was no way the electrons could interact with each other. Yet we still see an interference pattern. Scientists wanted to see what was causing this, so they added a detector to observe electrons as they pass through the slits. That's when things go from weird to paranormal. As soon as the detectors were installed, the interference pattern went away and the clumping pattern returned. Take the detectors away and the wave interference pattern is back.
But that's a different result to what we had earlier. So here's the last bit of sneakiness that we can play with atoms. Surely now, we're going to get to grips with it. Leave the detector there, but just very quietly go and unplug it. Don't let the atoms know that you're not spying on them. Run the experiment again. Now, if you can explain this using common sense and logic, do let me know, because there's a Nobel Prize for you.
It's as if the particles are aware they're being observed. Then physicist John Wheeler had an idea. He called it the delayed choice experiment. How it works is, photons are projected through the double slit, but the detector is not activated until after they pass through the slit, but before they impact the screen. Photons were emitted as waves, passed through the slits as waves, but when the waves were observed before hitting the screen, they suddenly behaved like particles again. Still don't think there's an intelligence at work? Well, what Wheeler's experiment showed is that even though the electrons started as waves but behaved like particles after being observed, at the moment the decision to observe them was made, the electrons recorded themselves as having passed through the slits as particles. The electrons changed their state by going back in time.
I personally find that I gravitate more towards the information theoretic point of view and believing that the universe that I exist in is a very good, high-quality simulation.
Now, this experiment...
I mean, we're going deep here, we're going real deep. We're going to the foundations of our reality, you know what I mean? This is some deep shit. I don't know if everyone got that and understood it. You may want to go back and watch it again. But that's kind of the measurement problem, and the reality acts differently when we observe it than when we don't, and it's some crazy stuff, to be honest. But that's exactly how a video game works. A video game only renders what the player can see to save memory, and our reality is acting in the same way. If somebody does not observe, it doesn't render. It basically is what he's just told you there in a very complicated way, but it's very hard to explain without some sort of diagrams of what's going on when you're firing these particles through the slits. It's very hard to explain without the diagram. So, yeah, reality acts differently when we observe, when we're there, when us, or an animal maybe as well, like an animal has visual of eyes and can see. Maybe animals can also render the things, or is animals like on the Matrix just sentient beings that render with us? It's some crazy stuff, to be honest, but very, very interesting. The first time I ever heard this, I was fascinated, to be honest. Are we in a simulation? And there is some evidence that we are, and then it just means that all this kind of is more meaningless than we ever thought it was. It's just a game. So let's go on, there's more of this.
Experiment is happening on a table in a lab, a very short distance. So what happens when we observe light coming from vast distances, like say a galaxy 100 million light years away? If light from a distant galaxy is projected through the double slit, it creates the wave interference pattern. But if we push those photons through a measuring apparatus to observe them, the wave again collapses all the way back to its source. This is called retrocausality. Simply by choosing to observe the photons this way, they reach back through time 100 million years and alter their state on the other side of the galaxy. But like a video game engine...
So I don't know if you understood that. So basically we weren't here when some of the light we see from stars gets here, but because we're observing it now, it changes its form from all the way back in time when the light was emitted to be what we can observe, so to speak. It's crazy, to be honest. It's some crazy stuff.
It only does this if we're looking. Even though our universe is full of galaxies, those galaxies may not actually be there. If we're living in a simulation, then stars and galaxies could simply be projections, and only when we get up close would those projections become more detailed. This is an excellent way to save computational resources. And because we're stuck with the hard limit of the speed of light, getting to far-off places is really difficult. Limiting the speed of light is a useful rule to have in place. Quantum...
Yeah, like again, having the speed, we can't get to these places for them to ever render, for them to ever mean anything, to take up any memory in the simulation, is what he's saying.
Mechanics like the double slit experiment and quantum entanglement only make sense if there's a program at work, because only the program can ignore the laws of physics and ignore the concept of time itself.
Yeah, so Y-Files, go and watch the rest of that video if you want on Y-Files, we live in a simulation. But I was just trying to explain sort of the measurement problem and why our reality acts a bit like a computer game, and it doesn't seem to render if we don't observe it. So, going back to the alien JMES, the alien situation is crazier than we thought video, but it's not really to do with aliens. This is to do more with the simulation. And people have got a laser here, and when they shine it on the surfaces, they can see like a code, like the Matrix, which is just mental as well, to be honest. But let's have a listen to this.
When I first saw the phenomenon, I was like, holy.
But then it was actually like, whoa, what is happening?
Am I losing my mind? But then I showed other people, and things kept getting weirder.
Just for the record, I haven't told him anything.
Okay.
Just tell me what you see.
Oh my God, come on.
Wow. What?
Holy shit. I just saw something.
Oh, I see that. I feel it.
I showed over 100 people, and I kept asking myself, how are all of us seeing the same thing?
Oh my God.
The laser was revealing numbers and letters running in a pattern.
They're almost like this big here, And it looks like code.
It looked like programming code.
It's definitely.
Was that the code that they were seeing? That's literally very similar to what people used in the Matrix. Also very similar to Japanese and Chinese letters. Kind of crazy.
Saying something, and I just want to take a picture of it and translate it.
Wow.
You see that?
Okay, so yeah, it's not stuck.
No.
It's not because of the light.
No, it's on its own side. Light is just literally revealing it.
You can see through the wall. It's not like a hallucination. It has spatial awareness and permanence. I don't know. Whoa.
Okay, so this is creepy. It has spatial awareness and permanence. And everyone sees it. Everyone sees the same thing, the same letters. This can't be a coincidence.
For centuries, mankind has attempted to explore these psychedelic, altered states, but we've never had a repeatable, testable phenomenon to observe until now.
It's like you can see through the laser into another dimension.
The claim is, if you project a diffracted laser on the surface, at EMT, you will see code running in surfaces. Yes, like in the Matrix.
So there are a few possibilities. One,
I lost my mind.
The second option is that
this is the biggest discovery of humankind.
What? So apparently this is what they're seeing. It looks like Japanese, Chinese. And so let's just take into consideration that this might actually be real. Is there any video evidence to support the fact that we might be living in a simulation? Does it glitch sometimes? And well, maybe there is.
There's a really big, supposedly new Mandela effect that will convince you you're in a different timeline. Are you ready? Do you remember like Michelangelo's David statue? And do you remember his eyes? Try to picture what they looked like. Did they have little concave hearts in them?
I have no idea about this, whether they did or not, so that's for someone else in the comments. I have no idea whether they had hearts in them in the first place.
I Googled it because I did not believe this. I was like, this is a joke. This is a prank. Like, Google's playing a prank. Look at this. Freaking Google. Post right here. If you know, you know. So whatever reality we're living in, it's the one with the heart-shaped eyes.
Gen X.
I hung this thing up. I got it a long time ago. My cousin painted that picture. It used to be hanging over here. I've decided to move it over there. I put this over here just for the hell of it. I'm only bringing this up because until I had done those two things, things were normal. And I had this book, again, it's my nephew's, but I had this book in my closet from when they came over, and I dug it out, and I noticed that the Berenstain had said Berenstein in that room. It happens when it gets in the room. See it? And then back out here, normal. Yeah. What the f?
So maybe it went under the sofa. Let's take a look. See that? It didn't. Look at that. Okay, maybe under the tree. Let's take a look again. Well, no, right? And she says she moved things around. Not only that, it's the sort of thing that kind of happens to a lot of people. It's kind of mind-boggling, indeed. It's very difficult to believe that the ball just disappeared. It doesn't make any sense. It's not a logical thing to explain. But then there's other examples. It was recorded by Electro Miami.
Nowhere, and this is how you know simulation is broke. Look, the sun is over there. No clouds, no clouds, no clouds. This cloud over there. But where's the shadow for this cloud coming from if the sun is behind me? Check this out. You can make this up, guys.
Yeah, this is a more complex situation where you have a shadow that looks to be coming from a cloud, but where is that cloud? And we can see that the sun is coming from behind him, and there are no clouds in front of the sun. Right at the beginning of the video we can see that very clearly, and then when he pans around we can see that again.
Clouds, no clouds.
So what is going on here? It's bizarre, isn't it?
If the sun is behind me, check this out. Can make this up, guys.
There's also videos like this one coming in from Shay Renee a couple of months ago. Check this out.
This lady's been standing in the same spot looking just like that. Oh my gosh, what the hell is happening right now? She's been stuck like that for 5 minutes. Oh my god. What the hell?
By this.
No, literally.
Wait.
What the f?
Babe, stop cussing.
If that happened to me, I'll fucking I'll leave and I'll probably never speak to this woman again, to be honest.
Why is she frozen? Bro, I'm tripping. What the f?
The thing is, it's not just one video, it's countless videos of people who report seeing or feeling or sharing an experience that they know shouldn't have happened. They don't know how to coin it, so they coin it a glitch in the Matrix. Before I show you this bizarre connection of alien orbs that are showing up all over the world, the simulation theory, and quantum computing, let me show you guys a very bizarre video that may be evidence that we're living in a simulation. It was recorded by Kenko Dickens and uploaded to Reddit. You can see in this video it's something quite different. Let's play this one. What is that? How do you explain what he just saw? He says, "Hey guys, I was on my terrace just staring at nothing when these seagulls started blinking as blue as if electricity was shocking them. Though they didn't appear to feel disturbed at all. It was certainly not someone else's laser. Does someone else have any idea what could it be?" Take a look at that. That's weird, isn't it? That doesn't feel right. It doesn't make sense.
So here's a bit of Joe Rogan as well. Everyone knows Joe Rogan, 8 million subscribers. Video game designer thinks we live in a simulation because the universe kind of acts like a...
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Simulation.
I was a video game developer in Silicon Valley, and then I became an investor in the video game industry. My background's in computer science. And what happened was after I sold my last video game company back in 2016, so we're talking 7 years ago now, 8 years ago now, and I put on a virtual reality headset and started playing a VR ping pong game. All right, now these headsets were even bigger than they are now, and they were wired, so there's no mistaking you're in virtual reality. But what happened was that the ping pong game was so realistic that for a moment my brain forgot that this wasn't a real game of table tennis. So much so that I tried to put the paddle down on the table and I tried to lean against the table. But of course there was no table. So the controller fell to the floor and I almost fell over. I had to do one of these double takes like, oh wait, I'm just in VR, right? So I started to think about how long would it take us to build something like the Matrix, something that's so immersive that you would forget, right, that you were inside a video game. And so that led me to this idea of the simulation point, which is a kind of technological singularity. But then I started to research things like quantum physics and some of the mysteries around, the observer effect and quantum mechanics. And then I started to look at all the world's religions, and I realized that they're all kind of saying the same thing, which is that there is no physical universe. And so, that led me to the conclusion that we are most likely inside some kind of a computer simulation or a massively multiplayer video game, depending on how you look at it.
But where did that simulation come from if we are inside of it?
Well, that's the big question, right? And there's two versions of simulation theory. And, I teach a class on this at Arizona State University. It's probably the first college-level class about simulation theory, and it kind of pulls in science fiction, religion, philosophy, and technology. But one of the key distinctions I tell my students to make, because it's not talked about a lot with simulation theory, is what I call the NPC versus the RPG versions of simulation theory.
Okay.
Right. So NPC, as you probably know, means non-player characters within video games. So those are the AIs in the video game. The bartenders, the people you're beating up, the opponents, all of that stuff. But basically, they're just code and they're AI. Then there's the RPG version, which is that we are actually doing a role-playing game. Right. So you exist outside the game, and then you have a character or avatar inside the game. So it's just like what we would consider an MMORPG today, right? Except with more sophisticated technology.
Yeah, it's just very sophisticated, but we're getting to that level of technology. So what's to say somebody hasn't already got there and made this simulation and we're all in it? So very interesting, very interesting. We'll cover more on this sometime, but go and watch the rest on this on Joe Rogan if you want, or there's the Y-Files there, or JMES, but yeah, so a few people on it, to be honest. Do we live in a simulation? But here's Neil deGrasse Tyson as well, explains the simulation hypothesis. So it is a known theory, and there is some backing to it, to be honest. I'll leave it there, people. Peace.